الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Center at New York University podcast, coming to you straight from the heart of New York City. We're building an amazing Muslim community here at ICNYU where everyone is welcomed and respected no matter where you're from or where you're at. This is the place to be. So open your ears and your heart and come along with us on another life-changing journey. Bismillah.
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in His path until the last day. It is said that the Meccan society in which the Prophet ﷺ grew up in, there was many atrocities, inequities, injustices of all kind. Individuals that came from the wrong race, the wrong class, the wrong clan, their lineage wasn't of nobility, or perhaps their lineage wasn't known as all. That if you were born and you were a woman, there was a good chance that you would be literally buried alive in a society that wanted sons and did not want daughters. Where there was no sense of accountability, there was no recognition of rights that others had. The Prophet ﷺ grew up in this place, knowing that these were things that were simply not okay. And when he is given prophethood at the age of 40, he finds himself now in a unique situation as not just being a messenger for his own people, but a messenger for all of mankind. And engaging now in 23 years of a lived experience, the dissemination of knowledge, ideas, teachings, and traditions that were not meant to be just transformative of the people that were in his immediate proximity, those that were blessed to meet him in their lifetime in this world. May Allah make us companions of the Prophet Muhammad and the world beyond this one. But beyond that generation, to be a mode of inspiration and transformation for literally every generation that would come into existence until the end of time. And you see, until today, subhanAllah, there are 2 billion Muslims in this world. In over 14 centuries of lived tradition, you have had that many more walk and traverse on this earthly plane. And what each one makes a choice of doing is buying into the vision that the Prophet ﷺ sought to disseminate to his people, the vision that Allah Azza wa Jal sought to inculcate within His messenger's mission. We have a lot of challenging rhetoric that exists in the world today. It tells especially young people that you have to go find your purpose, and you have to go find meaning and live with meaning, and you have to be visionary in every way you possibly can. The reality is such is that you don't have to be somebody who creates and adopts their own established sense of vision. The idea isn't that you have to somehow on your own figure out steps and structures and mechanics. What most of the world gets lost in is a notion that says that I individually have to, on my own, go in my own way of determining for myself what all of this is actually about. And the reality is that most of us that exist in certain spaces, we're not going to have those qualities of being visionary to begin with. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us. But you don't have to necessarily work as hard as sometimes people claim you have to work. Because when you think about individuals who are known to be mobilizers and exemplars of people across the world, historical reference that teaches you the names of people who live with dignity and honor, they had a sense of values and ethics. You think about even in this country's own history, and you know the names of people that got others moved to be able to take on what was inequitable and oppressive. Every single person that bought into the vision of a Martin Luther King was not somebody that had their own vision, they just bought into that one. People who understood what Malcolm X, rahimahullah, was actually about didn't have to then go home and say, let me now nuance it for myself, but they were able to be visionary by not creating their own vision, but understanding and finding depth in the vision of somebody else. That's what Islam affords to you and I as an opportunity. To be able to not be people who come in the middle of the day on a Friday to stand and bow and kneel and prostrate because being Muslim is an identity variable. It's not that you dress a certain way or eat a certain way or give charity in a certain way or make pilgrimage in a certain way or adopt certain rituals and practices in certain ways just because the elders amongst you did those things. You don't abide by certain customs and norms because there was generations that came before you that did it. But you get to the depth of it by being able to recognize that within this there's something that I actually buy into. Within this there's ideals. There's a sense of purpose. There gives me reason that answers the questions of why, that I'm able to dig deep and try to recognize what was this entirely about to begin with, and does it coincide with how it is that I am going to choose my choices and traverse my days in this earthly plane on every tomorrow that I'm blessed to be here, not in pursuit of the satisfaction of my base desires, but in something that's much bigger than that. And individually, at this juncture in our respective lives, you have to think about whether you actually buy into it or not. The worldview, the perspective, the paradigm that this religion teaches to inculcate within its practitioner, that says to you that there is nothing worthy of worship except God. So don't let your qibla be towards the corporate sector. That when you are making tawaf in your day, don't make it something that has you walking in circles just around things that are materialistic. The physicality of the situation is not what you want to become subservient to. It's not your stomach and your sexual organs that should make your decisions. Don't pursue what you pursue so that you can get a degree and have wealth and money so that you would be a good potential spouse or suitor to somebody. But you pursue what you pursue because you know it falls into what you deem to be a good plan of living in this world that stems from the divine and his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that you allow for yourself to sit and think about the day that lies ahead of me. And where openings and opportunity come to me to exemplify what it means to be considerate, thoughtful, and kind. Because it wasn't Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's vision that taught us to be people who only related and connected based off of shared race or shared class or shared wealth and affluence. It wasn't the vision of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that taught us that somehow we would stratify society and somehow seek to aspire towards whiteness and be deeply entrenched in anti-blackness. It wasn't the vision of our Prophet that taught us that we should be sitting behind a desk 60, 70, 80 hours a day to accumulate things of the world that we're going to leave behind for somebody else to enjoy. Our Prophet's vision wasn't that you got for yourself at the detriment of others. It wasn't one that validated and justified mistreatment, doing not what we have the ability to do in terms of rights for others, but getting up each and every day and buying into the idea that there is a world beyond this one. May Allah make us all people of Jannah, and may Allah make us people who believe in the reality of Jannah, and let our decisions be exemplified that we believe in the reality of an akhirah, and that this world is not simply what it is. And then you sit down and you try to dig deep and think, well, what is it all about? That the implementation of what this is not something that just comes with ease. That courage isn't about that I have no fear, but courage is about my ability to embrace what I'm given and to stand up in the face of my fear. That my reliance is not about having a certain number of dollars in the bank. My reliance is on God, whether there's dollars or not. This is why the hadith says, live like the birds who when they leave from their home, their stomach is empty, and when they come back, their stomach is full. They know it's going to come. They don't have to compromise on what the vision is about. They don't have to make excuses as to why I leave behind what it was given to me for my benefit in the first place. And you start to just think deeply. You start to reflect and use the intellect that was given to you. You don't have to figure it out on your own. This is why a messenger and 124,000 messengers were sent to this world. That you don't have to just piece it together by yourself, but you sit and you think deeply. What is this all really about? And once I start to have that meaning and that intention and that motivation, I start to apply it to every facet of what I seek to pursue. And I start to think about, what is it that takes me away from these things? How do I adopt the vision of what Islam interjects within its practitioner in the pursuit of being a doctor or being a lawyer or being an engineer or an artist or an academic or an activist? If I really believe in what this is all about, how does it bear its presence in my relationships, my friendships, my familial ties, me being a father, a husband, a son? And just think about it. What compels, what motivates? And then what are you willing to give up for it because you know that nothing else is more important than this thing? That I have something that isn't just worth dying for, but something that's worth actually living for. Something that gives me energy, something that allows for me to get through the heavy days and the light days, that allows for me to celebrate not just my achievement, but the achievements of others, as well as be there as a source for somebody in their difficulty. We have everybody move up close and come in. If you come in tight, if there's any room in front of you, both the brothers and the sisters, there's a lot of people who are going to be coming. Our Prophet ﷺ has a companion by the name of Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu anhu. Mus'ab ibn Umair is one of my favorite companion stories and illustrates quite deeply what it means to be somebody who actually buys into what this is all about. Mus'ab ibn Umair was known to be from the most noble and elite of Quraysh. A young man who wore the best of clothes, was articulate and eloquent and had the freshest of scents. Somebody who came from wealth and affluence, was said to be quite handsome in his demeanor. In a time in Mecca where revelation is now disseminated and the people start to talk about Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, and what it was that he was teaching, Everybody knew that this was being passed around. And amongst those who were listening attentively, were actively listening, was this young man, Musab radiallahu anhu. That he made it a point to be able to try to understand and learn, well, what was this religion actually teaching? What is it about? So the people, they used to, in those early years, go to the house of Al-Arqam to be able to just learn from the Prophet ﷺ in safety. And Musab ibn Umair, he goes as a young man. He's not an older person. He's young. To just understand, what is this man teaching us in terms of how we should live our life? What is he giving to people to be able to give them an indication of what it means to live with beauty and honor and dignity and grace? What does it mean to have etiquette? What does it mean to find actual understanding of purpose? To not be subservient to this world. Musab ibn Umair, he goes to the house of Al-Arqam and he hears the Prophet ﷺ speak. And the words of the messenger ring true in this young man's heart. And he makes the decision of embracing this religion as a young person. Musab ibn Umair has a mother that he is terrified of. Like many of you are scared of your mothers. In the same way you come and you sit in our office and say that my mother will not let me marry this boy. My parents, they will not tolerate the idea of me even thinking of studying other than what they have me studying. And it's not just those of you who are 20, but we have this conversation with those of you who are 30, even in your 40s. The fear of a parent is very real. May Allah make us parents who honor the rights of our children. Musab ibn Umair is scared of nothing in that society other than what his mother will do to him if she knows. You want to think about 14 centuries later, our convert sisters and brothers have the same challenges with their families. May Allah make it easy for them.
Ameen. Ameen.
And so in secrecy, he engages this faith. In secrecy, he goes to learn. In secrecy, he still builds his relationship with this tradition. An individual sees him now going to the house of Al-Arqam and sees him now adopting the lifestyle that is taught by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he goes and he tells his mother, and his mother literally, in front of people, almost moves to start beating him in public. And in response, instead now, when she steadies her hand, she shackles him in their home. Musab ibn Umair, he manages to escape and he goes to Abyssinia, what we know is modern day Ethiopia, and he's amongst the people that are there. He comes back to Mecca, and then a second time he goes to Abyssinia, and he is brought back and forth in these ways. When he is now again back with the Prophet ﷺ, and he is in this place where his mother tries to do this to him again, he says to her that I will not tolerate this treatment from you any longer. And any who you would bring to put me in chains, know that they will then have to deal with me retaliating and causing them now recompense for their actions towards me. And his mother knows, because she can hear the sincerity. She knows that he has conviction in his faith. And before he departs, he says to her words that a son would say to a mother, and she says that you are no longer a child of mine. And again he beseeches her, but this is the way that they leave one another. Musab ibn Umair radiallahu anh, a man who entered into this religion wearing the best of clothes and the finest of perfumes, and was known as being from amongst the most handsome of youth in that society. He now walks in front of the companions, and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the clothes that he's wearing are in tatters. He has left behind the comfort of a huge home and a family that supports. And some of the companions of the Prophet, they are moved to tears, saying that when you entered in this place of Islam, you are in a totally different situation. But he doesn't even think twice. And they're not saying it out of remorse, but they see beauty in what it is that is only when you see a person of real sincerity. Amongst many other things that this young man is now given the responsibility of, when the people are going to leave from Mecca to go to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ has to choose who will be from amongst his representatives to go before he gets there. And so he commissions this young man, Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu anh, who starts to now prime the people of Medina for the Prophet ﷺ's coming. And there are many individuals who now sit and speak with Mus'ab ibn Umair. According to our tradition, a chieftain of the tribes comes with an arrow pointing at him. And Mus'ab ibn Umair says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Who are you to make us challenge the way of our ancestors?" And young Mus'ab says to him that, "Why don't you just sit and listen to what I have to say? And if you don't find that there is beauty in it, then I will leave from this place and no longer speak to people. But if you find that there is a semblance of truth in what it is that this religion calls towards, then just think about it differently." The man says that, yes, this is something that I can agree to. And as Mus'ab ibn Umair just starts to speak about this tradition, this religion, the man, the hadith says, starts to change in his demeanor. And at the end of it, he embraces this faith. And then after him comes Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh and Sa'ad ibn Ubadah. And the people, they say that the chieftains of our tribes, they're all coming towards this deen. And they are coming from this young man, Mus'ab ibn Umair, who is simply a messenger on behalf of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Medina is ready for the Prophet to come. We go through a battle of Badr. You go now to the battle of Uhud. A battle in which many of the companions were lost. May Allah make us from amongst their companions in the world beyond this one. And Mus'ab ibn Umair in the battle of Uhud, he is given the responsibility of carrying now the standard, the flag of that community, our deen. And as our tradition teaches us, the archers that were told to hold their position so that they could not now be taken from behind, they jump from their position and leave now the flank to be taken advantage of by Khalid ibn Walid and Ikramah, the son of Abu Jahl, neither of whom were Muslim at that time. And as the tide turns, they know now that they're not in the momentum of victory. And this young man, Mus'ab ibn Umair, rather than retreating, he jumps into the thick of the battle, still carrying this flag in his hand. And as he goes back and forth now with the opposition, it's said that one from the opposition of the mushrikeen, they strike him and they literally take the hand that he is holding the flag in and cut it off. And he places it in the other, and they then attack him there, and now he is carrying it between the stubs of his arm, and they continue to strike him again and again and again, but he will not let the banner of Islam fall for anything. They had to mutilate his very body. And at the end of the battle, when they are walking to the battlefield and they see the shuhada of Uhud, the Prophet ﷺ comes upon young Mus'ab ibn Umair's body with his face now facing in the earth. And he remembers where this young man was when he came into the community years before. And they seek to now shroud him with something of his own belongings. And they say that the one cloth that he had, when they covered his head with it, it would expose his feet. And when they covered his feet with it, it would expose his face. And so the Prophet ﷺ says to cover his face with it, and then they put some lemongrass upon his feet. And then he stands there. And he remembers that this young man who came into this religion with the finest of clothes, the most fragrant of perfumes, wealth, popularity, affluence, and influence, that he left in such a beautiful way that only allowed for him to have a sheet that couldn't even cover the entirety of his body. He believed in what was given to him. And you got to think about if you really believe in this, if you really buy into it. And if you buy into it, what is it giving to you for your benefit? And how does it influence you to stand after you have fallen? Because we will all make mistakes. May Allah make us those who have compassion towards ourselves and believe in His mercy. He believed in what it was, and it gave him confidence to embrace any obstacles with perseverance and resilience. You're not meant to walk through this earth with a recognition that you are like everybody else. You are Muslim. You are supposed to be different. The hadith is true that Islam began as something strange and it will return to something strange. So give glad tidings to the strangers. If it is strange to go visit the sick in the hospitals, then be strange. If it is strange to play games with your children instead of chasing after money, then go and be with your kids. If it is strange to greet those that you know and those that you don't know, then be as strange as you possibly can. Don't take your cues from a society laden in supremacy and egocentricity that tells you that your worth is only when you become that which you are not. But remember who your teacher is, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and allow for yourself to see yourself the way that you know He would see you, and the way that your God continues to see you, based off of what it is that you have that's inherently good. And then you go out and be a source of luminosity, a source of beauty. And that being Muslim isn't just something that you are named as, but it's something that's a mindset, something that you actively do. And that you are a good doctor then, not because you're good at medicine, but because you're a good person. You're a good engineer, a good artist, a good academic, a good activist, not because you suddenly have skill and expertise in any of those things alone to demonstrate goodness, but because you are a person of good quality. And if you buy into what Islam is actually teaching you, then there's no way you couldn't be a good person. If you buy into divine promise, and you understand everything that Allah says is true, you buy into the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you understand that his teachings were given not to be suffocating or restrictive, but to be a means of spiritual increase. You start to allow for yourself to love yourself the way that Allah and His Messenger love you. Then these stories are not going to be things that you simply hear about others who did what they did. But the world will be able to then hear your stories later on because you lived the way a Muslim was supposed to live. Let yourself on this day of Jummah really think about it. What is it that makes you believe success is actually designated? Is it a rank? Is it a degree? Is it a credential? What is it that means that you are actually on top of things? And this is a tradition that teaches us that success is about honoring the rights of creation, not making justifications as to why we leave them behind. That success is about understanding that the world is just a part of creation. It's not an end, it's a means to something. And that there's going to be days that are heavy. There's going to be days that you are exhausted. The Quran, it says in Surah Ash-Shahr, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْسَبْ, that after you have completed your task, saying to the Prophet, then go and exhaust yourself. You got done everything that you were supposed to get done. You don't sit down. You go out and you go and get more done. You buy into it, and the world beyond this one is something that is the place of rest, the place of ease, the place of peace, the place of comfort. Just think about what this religion actually calls you towards. And if you start to let yourself be open to those ideals, it'll transform for you and then make you a means of transformation of this world that really is in need of, more so than ever, Muslims who actually believe in Islam. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Tonight, inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to be going with my family and a few other families from the community to Mecca and Medina with the intention of performing the Umrah. I'll be making dua for each of you, your loved ones, your family members. If there's anything that you're in need of from those places in specific, please let me know. And I'll do my best to try to facilitate and get done whatever it is that you're asking. I'm going to ask you to understand for yourselves as well, as we are entering the end part of a year, and there's a lot of transitions and things for different people in different ways. This is a community that has certain elements of a culture to it. It's known as a generous community, a diverse community, a giving community. The pandemic disrupted certain things for us, and many lives were impacted. Many in our community we lost. May Allah grant them peace. Sickness, homelessness, and so much. But there's disruption also to what it is that our culture was in certain ways. And over the course of the break, and as you move forward and take time to rest for yourselves, and we get ready now for, inshallah, more openings and opportunity to get back to where we were. We're in need of people at every level of our community. Students, staff, alumni, community members, people who are here on Jummah only, the halaqat, whatever, that help us to lead and get done what we have the ability, capacity, whether it's convenient or not, to help us to get to a place where that culture that this community is known to have is amplified and elevated. And that's each one of us being committed to this idea, to this vision. When somebody says to me that, Khalid, you're visionary in your leadership, I would say I'm a wretched human being. But if there's anything that you find to be beneficial from my service to this place, it's because I believe in what Allah and His Messenger have told me is good for me in this world and in the next. And I didn't grow up necessarily with that mindset. There's years that I could outline for you where I didn't even pray once. May Allah forgive me for it, but it's a part of where I am now, that past that I had. In that moment when it clicked and I was willing to actually say that I'm on my own terms going to learn what this religion is actually about, and when I found what it actually taught to its practitioners, there's no way that you can just live in denial of that then, once it's something that enters your heart. Use some of your break to just think about whether or not you really know what this deen teaches you, and allow for yourself to use what lies ahead to then determine how it is you are going to bring yourself in relation with it. And I can guarantee to you that once it is that you actually buy in and submit in the way that Islam means to submit, the world is going to feel like a different place. The challenges, you're going to want them to come. The opportunities, the openings, you're going to relish at the fact that you see them. And every day is going to be another day that you wake up with energy and you say, Ya Allah, make me a person who embodies the action of the people of your Jannah on this day. Make me a means of hope, of strength for your creation on this day. Help me to embrace my light, my luminosity on this day. Help me to see myself the way you see me. Use the break to rest and use the break to reflect. And remember that no matter what, you are a good person, but good people can always be better. If there's anything you want me to make specific dua for you for, please send it over to me and I'll do my best to get it done. And I've done this in the past whenever I've gone for Umrah, literally sitting in the Rawda, sitting in front of the Kaaba and reading every single dua. And people would say, do you really do it? I do it because I love each of you more than you know. And I know that I have no conditions to that love, because me buying into what this religion has taught me has also made me comfortable in loving myself. And allowing for that to be a means to then embrace fully the ability to love others. And so I will do it. And even if you don't send me anything, I'm going to still make dua for all of you in every way that I can. We make special dua on this day of Jummah for our students, both those that attend NYU and elsewhere. They're in their final exam periods, that Allah grants them tawfiq and puts barakah into their studies and efforts and gives them ease in all of what lies ahead, inshallah. And then lastly, there's going to be two people who are going to take their shahada after the Jummah prayer. If you could sit and be a part of that before we have lunch. There's a sister who already this morning took her shahada, mashallah. So make dua for her as well. And that we are a community that brings benefit to those that are coming and entering into this deen. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Make us from amongst those who take from the unique blessings and barakah of this day of Jummah. Let not this day end or any tomorrow that we see in this world without us doing something of benefit for ourselves and for the rest of your creation. Help us, Ya Rabbi, to see ourselves the way that you see us. Help us to look at our actions, to look at our hearts, and not just simply our externals. Grant us hearts that are wakeful, Ya Allah, hearts that we make decisions through and never at their expense, Ya Rabbi. For our students, Ya Allah, who are writing papers and taking exams in the coming days. We ask, Ya Allah, that you strengthen their minds and give them energy and help them to have relief, Ya Rabbi, no anxiety, no stress. They're all amazing young men and women, Ya Allah. And let them to know that their successes in this world are important, but so too we ask, Ya Rabbi, that you give them the ultimate success in the world beyond this one. Give them sound and good intentions in their pursuit of endeavors in this world. And let them be from amongst those, Ya Allah, who are never afraid to dream, that they can see all that it is that you have endowed them with, and then make them a means through which this world is left in a better state than which they found it. Help them, Ya Allah, to excel beyond their own expectations. And where those of us who are blessed to be in their company can be a means of support, then help us to remember them in our mentorship, our own teaching, as well as in our du'as. We ask, Ya Allah, that for all those who are facing any type of difficulty or duress in their life, financial, personal, emotional, any kind, that you grant them ease, Ya Rabbi, and you bring to them soon the ease that they are longing for. For those who are seeking companions, give them companions that will be good for them in this world and in the next. For those who have the blessing of a companion, help us to see the value and blessing that is that companion and to treat them with care and respect. For those who are facing financial difficulties, seeking jobs, we ask, Ya Allah, that you bless them with a livelihood that is pleasing and permissible. And we ask, Ya Rabbi, that for those who are in a place of aloneness and feeling isolated, that you never let any one of us feel by ourselves in that way, nor to let any one of the rest of us feel that way, but make us a means through which your creation feels your love and feels your presence. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقم الصلاة.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you're inspired by the work that we're doing at the IC and want to help keep it going, subscribe to our podcasts, follow us on social media, donate to help support us at ICNYU.org, and most importantly, keep us in your continued du'as. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.